Kristin, if you could just tell everybody who you are and what you do and all that jazz.
Yeah. My name's Kristin Lee. I am an entertainment business manager. I kind of say that's a fancy word for glorified accounting slash sometimes adulting for entertainers and athletes and yeah, we kind of just handle everything that's touching their financial well-being, business and personal. So anything from bookkeeping to taxes to insurance and all the stuff in between.
And did you always want to be a business manager, money maven person?
You know, I actually didn't even know this job existed until I was a few years into my accounting career. I was working at a public accounting firm and I was good at it, but it was really boring. And I met someone that was like, oh, hey, entertainers and musicians and stuff need accountants too. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. Of course they do. So, yeah.
And was the transition like smooth, like because you run your own business, like going into that process from like working for somebody else?
Um, I mean, luckily for me, I was pretty well set up when I started my own company. I had done well with my savings, I guess you could say. And so I knew that I had, pretty much a year if I made no money in my first year that I could live, but that wasn't the case, thank goodness. Um, but yeah, I mean, you go from having a steady paycheck every 2 weeks to invoicing your clients and really relying on them to make money to be able to pay you. So it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of budgeting in terms of like cash flow, instead of getting that paycheck and that deposit every 2 weeks. You might get a really big one month, not so much the next month because everything's going to kind of just ebb and flow with your client's income, as we're on a commission percentage basis. So, you definitely have to mind your cash flow and kind of retrain your thinking there and make sure, that what you see on the horizon is going to last as long as it needs to last.
Yeah. And when do you think people should bring on like an accountant or like a money person? And like, is there any difference between like going to like a Bank of America or working with like a business manager and how like the process is done in terms of like money management?
Yeah, I mean, I would say anyone that feels a little lost in the world of accounting, especially being a creative, I feel like sometimes those things don't play nicely together. Um, I it's different for everyone's like comfort level and their level of understanding of that stuff. Some of my clients are super intimidated by it and then just are like, no, thank you. Some of them are actually pretty savvy and more involved. So I would say if you need help, get it right away as soon as you feel like you need to. There's not really a right time other than, needing help. I think sometimes too, when people's businesses get to a certain level, if you're spending more time like on the admin side of your business or the bookkeeping or things like that, that's keeping you from the creative part that actually makes you money, then I would say, yeah, definitely get somebody in there and start delegating. But yeah, I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think you kind of have to just know, like, okay, I really need help in this department. In terms of the banking, I pretty exclusively bank with an entertainment bank. And that's just because they understand our business and the nature of things and how it's just kind of, it can be a little erratic and I don't think all the commercial banks really understand that as much. And they also make you jump through a lot more hoops to get things done, whereas, I've got a dedicated representative that pretty much handles all of the accounts for my firm. So, we can call them up and say, hey, so and so lost their card. I need one rushed out, to them on tour ASAP. And I can do that with one phone call instead of like waiting on hold and pressing a million numbers and waiting for a robot. So, it's kind of crucial to the efficiency of my day to day, really.
Yeah, no, totally. And speaking of like efficiency, like how does someone, okay, so it's like they say, okay, I need an accountant, I need like a business manager person. How would you recommend people like vet them? Like what questions should be asked? Like how, I guess, do you know? I guess that's probably like, depends on the person too, but how do you know that person can like handle your money in like the proper way?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of this industry is referral based. So, and a lot of us know each other and have known each other for a very long time, especially if you've been like in the industry for like 20 years, right? So, um, I think that's always a good place to start is, asking around and just kind of, um, just getting referrals from other professionals in your industry and who do you use or friends of friends, things like that. I find most of the time that stuff is pretty tight knit and reputable. There's a lot of business managers in different firms in this industry that I'm really close friends with, and if something doesn't make sense for us, we might refer it out to them, and vice versa. And so I would say I think once you get to that point and you get some good referrals, it's about taking meetings and filling out the relationship because you really do need to trust this person that you're working with a lot of sensitive information, and you need to feel comfortable with that. And also, you need to feel comfortable talking to them. And I feel sometimes talking about money is difficult or scary for people. So, you want that relationship to land with somebody who makes that process as easy as it can be for you, whatever that means. Like I think all different clients like different approaches and styles to working and styles to communicating and information that's necessary for their brain to digest and process what's going on with their business. So I think it's just, yeah, it's kind of like dating. You got to find the right fit.
No, I love that. And I love how like personable you seem, like you're not a scary bank person behind like a chase window. And you're sitting there waiting
I
like,
try.
okay, they're asking me what do I want? What do I like need? And I don't even really know aside from an account, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
But
I mean, a lot of people don't know like exactly what they even need. I think sometimes clients come in and they're trying to express, like something that would be helpful to them or something that they need. But they don't have that exact education or background to know specifically to ask. So there is a little bit of kind of deciphering that, picking it apart and helping them navigate that and figure out what they need so we can kind of tailor our reporting and all kinds of stuff, to suit them. So
yeah. And so I know you work, like you mentioned, you work with like all kinds of people across like industries. Like, what I guess is maybe like a common, like, um, not so good budgeting habit, maybe like people have that like those of us who are just, starting out could kind of avoid falling into, like in terms of budgeting, even like pre accountant or bank manager or business
mm,
manager person.
yeah. I mean, I think probably the most common pitfall is that like that lifestyle creep where you start to make more money, so you start to spend more money. And I feel like those things really shouldn't grow at the same rate. They should kind of like grow like that. Um, so and it's easy to do, especially when you first come into, your real money where you're getting paid for, your creativity and something you love. I think it's pretty easy to go off the deep end and be really excited really quickly. And to be fair, I believe in rewarding yourself and for the hard work. And I think people deserve treats. And I don't think you should, just save everything. I think there's, some give and take there. But it's, also be reasonable with it. But, it's like I treat myself plenty. I think it's important, keeps you motivated, but maybe just don't over treat yourself, I guess.
Yeah. No, and I think that like goes back to what you're saying, like it's different for each person what that looks like. Like maybe people are into luxury cars, but they love getting their nails done every week or something like that. So I love that you said
Yeah.
it's like a happy medium. And especially
Yeah.
because I can imagine like just, I'm in proximity to the sports world, and I'm thinking of like these people going from college, and even though they have NIL now, but they go and get that, NBA salary. It's like, wait a minute now, like you
I've
never
seen it.
seen this ever.
I've
Like
seen
it's
it. Yeah. Next thing you know, it's 4 houses, 10 cars, the whole family's on payroll. And you're just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Because with athletes, especially, and it can be with entertainers, I think film and TV people tend to have a little bit longer of a career trajectory. Once they hit a certain level, like you think you usually are pretty set, but and music can be the same. But I think, the athletes especially, it's tricky because if your career is only 5 years, maybe 10 if you're lucky and you don't get injured, it's hard to say what you'll do after that. Some people foray into other things like media and announcing and stuff after that, but not everybody has that opportunity. And so if you spend everything that you make, yeah, maybe you did make $100 million in 5 years, but then what are you making at year 6? And if you've spent it all, you're kind of screwed, you
yeah.
know?
I guess, how do you best prevent that? Maybe that goes back to your vetting process and like who you take on. Cause I imagine business managers are a little more like in the nitty gritty, maybe than like, your typical accountant that's like, bring me all your stuff and do my taxes and like try to make budget, happen, but it's not as strict, maybe.
Mhm.
That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Like, if I'm wrong, let me know. But for like business managers, it's more like personal. Like, I view it almost as like maybe like a manager that's like a talent manager, but
Mhm.
they're focusing on that
Yeah.
one area.
Yeah, no, you're right on. Yeah, I would say, we have to be really choosy, first of all, because, 5% of nothing is nothing. So our clients have to make money, right? And our services very hands-on. We see everything. We have a ton of work to do on the day-to-day in tax time, depending on different projects and things that are going on in between all of that stuff. So, it does need to be, worth our while. I also feel pretty strongly that my clients need to take it seriously, because it's really not my business, right? I don't spend the money. I don't make the money. We're really there to help. We're a service. We're integrated as part of the team. Um, but if I'm working harder than my clients and they're just out making poor decisions and not listening to anything that we're saying, I start to wonder what we're doing. Why am I here? If you don't want to heed my advice and you want to just do whatever you want and you're always right, like, then I don't understand where my role it fits in here, because the idea is that we're helping people, you know, ideally set themselves up in a way where, they can take maybe one thing that they're good at and expand upon it and to create, kind of an entire little universe of their own that hopefully sets them up for life. But that takes hard work, dedication, time, effort. And I think the artist, the client should be working harder than all of us around them, harder than me, harder than their agent, harder than their manager. We should be running to keep up with them.
Yeah, no, totally. Um, so have you ever had a client like go broke? I was like, there's no other way to put this. Like,
Oh yeah, I got a couple right now.
no.
Look, but in entertainment, that it kind of can be feast or famine, really. And I think we all kind of learned that in COVID too. Is like you'll hit hard times sometimes, like you could just have a dry season where there's not a lot going on, or maybe a project didn't take off the way that it was meant to. And or maybe something was doing really well and it kind of just wound down. I mean, it happens. And that's not always necessarily anyone's fault. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a combination of the well running dry and poor decision making. And then you're like, okay, but sometimes people need to hit that kind of rock bottom to learn the hard way. And hopefully it changes their decision making for the future. Not always, but hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of, I guess, like investments, so like I guess they'll go back from being broke now that we've hit rock bottom to like
Yeah.
when people do come to you, or I guess maybe they started with a certain amount and they're like rapidly growing, like how would you, I guess, like advise or suggest on investments? Because I know there's like popular things now like NFTs, which I don't understand anything in the cyber world. That stuff scares me. Like I'm like, I have no idea. I barely understand real estate. Savings is like, what is a rainy day for me? But it's like, I'm curious to know, like, how do you help navigate those conversations?
Yeah. So personally, I really don't give investment advice, I'll say. However, um, I will look at this more in terms of like, okay, we have some excess and we should do something with it, right? And we'll usually talk to different people, whether it's, our investment guys that handle stocks and brokerages and things like that. Or, maybe there'll be some other opportunities, some startups, some funds that come across my desk. Um, I'll just, yeah, I mean, NFTs and stuff, I don't know. I don't get that really either, to be honest. But I think that there are a lot of opportunities out there. And so it's kind of like, okay, like this is kind of an excess amount of cash that we have. We should definitely do something with it. This is interesting to me. This is interesting to me. And then, kind of just explore those things together and, kind of just more handhold and help the clients really find something that they're comfortable with. Because I've had clients that have excess money and they're like, whoa, what do I do with this? And then, we talked to, some guy that's like selling stocks and he totally freaks out one of my clients because he's like, that was intense and scary. And so it's like, okay, I need them to feel comfortable putting their money wherever they're putting it. So it's kind of, yeah, again, it's another dating similarity where you're just like, all right, let's just kind of poke around at some things and see what clicks.
Yeah.
And
No, I
hopefully
like
for me on my end, it's like hopefully there's like some kind of tax advantage to it too, ideally. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you keep referencing like it's like all about relationships because I feel like well my relationship with money I've always been in like survival mode, so it's like I'm learning how to get
Mhm.
out of that, so now it's like I'm I'm dating
Yeah.
somebody new,
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
interesting to hear that that's kind of like an almost an ongoing thing. And of course like I would assume it's great when you can be with the same person for X amount of time because it's just
Hmm.
another weight lifted because there's so much, like you said, there's so many things out of our control,
Yeah.
for space. So I love hearing that. I wanted to ask, which I'm sure it's pretty obvious, but is there a difference between personal accounts and business accounts, and
Oh, that's a great
how they're
question.
taxed and whatnot and all that jazz?
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, I think it's more than anything, it's for organization. I think as a business owner, being organized is probably should be your, top priority. Because even if you make a lot of money, when you're not organized, you're probably losing money somewhere. It's like not good. So I would say even if you still, make all of your money personally under your social security number and don't have like a proper LLC or corporation set up or anything like that, you still can have two separate bank accounts, so you're like, this one is all my business stuff, this one is all my personal stuff. And sometimes even pay yourself from like the business account into your personal account, like give yourself a little allowance. I think it's just a good habit, good structure, good organization. And it's kind of like a lot easier to come tax time, because you're not filtering through like a bunch of stuff trying to figure out like, oh, this was a write-off, not this one, it should all be pretty like, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think too, like, because as someone that like, I'm just now really separating my LLC and myself because I'm like, I want that to expand more and I want to focus
Mhm.
on like myself. So it's interesting, like, just you re-saying stuff that I was just telling myself filing taxes a week ago. And this is going to be way different next year because we're going to have it together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then right now it's like, okay, I don't think the IRS is going to be upset about this. um,
Yeah.
but I wanted to also ask, you know, I know you do a lot in music and like, you know, everywhere, but music mainly. I know that like in entertainment in general, like there's a lot of nuances between like you know, business owners and like women in business. Like is the money sector like
Mhm.
pretty women friendly in terms of business managers? I don't know a lot about it. It's just I just know really you.
You know, there are more women in this business now, I think, than when I started. I'll say that, which is great. Um, I think this is a great career for women. I think women are, better with numbers and generally better with money and organization than men. Not to say that there aren't some good men out there that can do this too. There's some great business managers. But I do think it's, we're really well suited for this in a lot of ways. I think also, when I have clients who kind of need that, almost parental guidance, I think sometimes us as women are a little bit, softer at dealing with that and helping creatives get through that stuff without, being horrified and intimidated. Um, but I mean, it's still like very, white male dominated. Just it is. Just flat out. Everything is. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
It's
we're
like
working on it, but
a
it's not there yet.
yeah. No, it's like a breath of fresh air, even like talking or seeing you like on social media. Because disclaimer, Kristen's not my business manager yet. When I hit my first million, that's my first call. I'm doing
Can't
one of these
wait.
stories on another
I'm
podcast with someone or something.
cheering for you. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Yes, but I wanted to ask, I guess like when you started, how did you get your first client? And then I guess like any advice to people who want to get into the money side of things, whether it's like a business manager or like an accountant, like do you have any advice for how they would start or like maybe some
Yeah.
do's and don'ts?
Yeah. So my educational background is accounting. I think that's probably the best thing to do if you want to get into business management, is get a good accounting background. Uh, and then from there, it's, find firms and just start applying, really. This job, I think having the like foundation fundamentals of accounting like under your belt is great, knowing terminology and just how things work and are structured, financial statements and taxes and stuff. But business management is definitely different than like standard public accounting in a lot of ways. And there's just so much nuance, and every single day is different. And it's really not, it is consistent because it's accounting and we live by kind of deadlines and things that are set forth by, the IRS or other government agencies. But it's also like chaotic, I say it's like controlled chaos. And so I think a lot of it just needs to be learned on the job, getting your hands dirty, spending a lot of time. It's like the, Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours is like not lost on this. Like you can't be a good business manager unless you just put in the time. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like learning everything we do in entertainment or these spaces of entrepreneurship, learning on the
You
fly.
gotta learn the hard way.
um, I wanted to ask too. So business managers, like, it's not like one of those things where you have to be, or is it like licensed in the state that your client's in, or you can be like
So,
do it.
a lot of business managers, a bunch of them hold different licensures, which I think is totally fine. Um, so yeah, there's CPAs. I know lawyers who are business managers, CFPs, enrolled agents. Like I think really it's, the educational foundation basics, and then yeah, just getting in there really. It's not, um, business management is not regulated in a way like a public accounting firm is. So you don't necessarily need to go in with any kind of license. I think there might just be like certain roadblocks. For me, it's I want to do A to Z service for my clients, which is like taking everything from like accounts payable and receivable to their bookkeeping to their tax return, like all the way through every year. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we have, people who are licensed to be able to file tax returns at the firm. So that was like, particularly important to me just because that's the service I want to provide. There are business management firms that outsource their tax part and they just focus on the day-to-day and the business management, and they package up financials and things and send them to a tax guy, and that's done separately. I don't think there's a right or wrong there. It's just, personal preference, but I'm kind of a control freak, so I'd rather do it all in-house.
At least you know it's done right because you did
Exactly.
it. No, I totally get that. And
Yeah.
I guess my last question before we wrap up is, if you weren't a business manager, what would you be doing?
Um, I think I would probably like be an architect. I would probably want to build pretty things.
I love that because I also noticed by your tattoos, like you're a creative person. So I was like, it's gotta be something creative, but I
I
can see
think
the
the business
business.
management lends itself to creativity. I mean, I've obviously naturally gravitate and flourish around and toward creative people. I definitely always knew I was good at accounting, but when I was just like Joe Schmo business public accounting, I was like not interested. So now I'm doing something that I'm, interested in and is fun to me. So it just definitely suits me better. But yeah, I could see myself like erecting giant, beautiful buildings somewhere. I don't know.
No, I love
Or a
that.
bridge or
I'm like, this all sounds like math and numbers involved. It's very on brand for you because I'm not doing it.
yeah, I have always been a math nerd, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah.
Where can people like find you and your firm or get in touch if you're going to answer them?
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry if I'm terrible at responding, or
No, you're good. You're
I
good.
usually get to them. It's just like kind of it's I have to find that like window of time where I'm like, oh yeah, I got to respond to like a few people.
Oh, you always respond to me, so
Yeah,
someone
I
else is
try.
watching. It's not.
I was just like disclaimer, disclaimer. Yeah. So my firm's Instagram handle is KLBM LLC, and then I'm at Miss Kristin Lee on pretty much all social platforms. Yeah. Say
Yeah.
hi or follow me because I just like to talk shit about the world and the way it's run.
And drop some money gems with the
Every once in a while,
money.
I will drop
Yeah,
some gems on everyone too.
but we love the shit.
Oh yeah. Good. Good. I need someone to love it. It's really important. And I've like, I would go to these music, business conferences and things, and like nobody goes to the money talk. And I'm like, you guys are crazy because you can't do anything without money, right? Like nothing.
Literally,
So
that's why we're at where we're at right now with everything. So,
we'll
uh,
get everyone on board eventually.
yes, we will. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time and always, being down to chat in DMs because that's where I met Kristin at. And
Mhm.
and I just appreciate you, and I'm excited for when the world aligns and I'll be saying, this is my money manager. This is the woman who makes the shit happen. That's it.
Go. Let's go. I'm here
Yes.
for it. Yeah. 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 Cool.